about kind of how we can operationalize that data for targeting and personalization, and really around shopper engagement and driving incremental activity among your shoppers. So the more you know about them, if you remember that flywheel, it feeds back into the process. You gain more insight, you can develop more targeted strategies, you can be more effective. And that's the process around our platform. But it really begins with data. So we look at the data sources. There's external sources, there's retailer sources. So we look at your transaction logs, we look at your store data, we look at your product data. We're pulling those extracts into our process where we stage and load that information. It's an ETL process. So if you hear us mention ETL, we're bringing all that data from these disparate sources together. And then we're standardizing it, we're validating it, we're aggregating all that together to create this holistic view of the shopper. And then we can apply our data science to it to help you target shoppers, to help you recommend items that are relevant to shoppers. We can give you the ability to segment that data and create your own segments, as well as use our segmentation schemes. So really the ability to take this disparate data, bring it in raw, aggregate it, synthesize it so you can do something with it, and then allow you to operationalize it for different applications. Pushing it to web and mobile, pushing it to email. I'll show you examples of that. So just to kind of give you an overall view of what that looks like in the process. So how do you collect that data? So loyalty is essential. It's really the means to the end. When you think about a loyalty program, it's to be able to generate the data that you need to then act upon and personalize the experience for the shopper. So we'll talk a little bit about customer registration and how we support that. We support a dual path registration, meaning that we have some clients that have an existing loyalty program, but now everything is moving to digital. So we're converting those accounts to digital. So it's a different process for enrolling shoppers, depending on where you're currently at. In your case, you don't have a loyalty program today. Kind of how we can operationalize that data for targeting and personalization, and really around shopper engagement and driving incremental activity among your shoppers. So the more you know about them, if you remember that flywheel, it feeds back into the process. You gain more insight, you can develop more targeted strategies, you can be more effective. And that's the process around our platform. But it really begins with data. So we look at the data sources. There's external sources, there's retailer sources. So we look at your transaction logs, we look at your store data, we look at your product data. We're pulling those extracts into our process where we stage and load that information. It's an ETL process. So if you hear us mention ETL, we're bringing all that data from these disparate sources together. And then we're standardizing it, we're validating it, we're aggregating all that together to create this holistic view of the shopper. And then we can apply our data science to it to help you target shoppers, to help you recommend items that are relevant to shoppers. We can give you the ability to segment that data and create your own segments, as well as use our segmentation schemes. So really the ability to take this disparate data, bring it in raw, aggregate it, synthesize it so you can do something with it, and then allow you to operationalize it for different applications. Pushing it to web and mobile, pushing it to email. I'll show you examples of that. So just to kind of give you an overall view of what that looks like in the process. So how do you collect that data? So loyalty is essential. It's really the means to the end. When you think about a loyalty program, it's to be able to generate the data that you need to then act upon and personalize the experience for the shopper. So we'll talk a little bit about customer registration and how we support that. We support a dual path registration, meaning that we have some clients that have an existing loyalty program, but now everything is moving to digital. So we're converting those accounts to digital. So it's a different process for enrolling shoppers, depending on where you're currently at. In your case, you don't have a loyalty program today. Yeah, so we want to look at all your sources that you have today. So you have digital coupons, you have e-commerce, where you have essentially a one-to-one relationship with a customer and they're identified as a shopper. So we'd want to consider all those current sources of customer identified shoppers and bring those into this process. So we might be converting those 100,000 to a loyalty account, depending on the strategy and how you want to approach it. And then on the e-com side, kind of the same way. So we try to meet the retailer where they are based on what they offer their customers today. And then we map out what the proper migration strategy is, and then the enrollment process for your new customers in store and online. And we support that through our platform. So we have some clients that have tablets in store, so they can do a digital enrollment process in store. Recommend that you get away from paper enrollments if you can, and just go digital. Just makes your life easier and everybody's life easier. So we support that through tablets as well as through digital enrollment on web and the mobile app. Time permitting, we'll take a look at that, but you can see over here, my account where I'm capturing all that information based on my registration. We'll show you how you can look up customer information. So when someone signs up, how you can access the CRM backend, the Workbench tool, to look up your customers, how you can edit customer information. You can see on the right where you can add all your contact information, your opt-in preferences, those clubs that you want to belong to, your communication preferences, show you some examples of that. And then we're not going to talk about householding today, but that's something that you have to consider is, do you household your accounts together under one household, and you treat them as a household, and you analyze your business at a household level? And so most of our clients analyze at household level, but then do you target at an individual or household level? So those are things that we support, both household and individual, depending on how you want to go to market and how you want to approach that. Capturing an email address, right. They're creating a password, right, when they enroll. They're creating a loyalty number. Loyalty numbers being assigned to them, so it's making that connection from the digital account, the username and password, to the loyalty account. They're creating an alternate ID so they can enter their phone number at the point of sale and not have to show a physical card. A lot of our customers don't even do physical cards anymore. So it really will map that out with you to make sure that you have a process that follows the way. And then we have features like being able to scan your driver's license card and it'll auto-populate all your information just to make the enrollment process more seamless in the app. And that's a nice feature. And that just kind of cuts down on that time so people can enroll quickly on the app. So that's one flavor of it. And then also you want to look at customer preferences and opt-in. So this is when we're starting to tailor the experience based on, in this case, we don't have purchase history, but you're actually raising your hand and saying, I do want email communications, and I want these email communications, and I may even want them on this frequency, or I want to be in the birthday club or the wine club. And even if these aren't over clubs, as you build data on your shoppers, then we can start to target those shoppers based on, we know you're making baby purchases. We know that you over-index in the category, so we're going to target you with those kinds of offers. But you can also set up these clubs in our back end, and then on the front end, shoppers can opt into those. So just a few examples of different ways they can indicate what's important to them and how they want to be treated and what type of content they want to receive. And then, again, it's everything from birthday clubs, wine clubs, baby clubs, whatever types of clubs. Again, either over or doing it stealth just through targeting that you want to offer your customers. It's low. It's a low percentage. It varies by client, but it's not typically. The opt-in process is that the boxes are selected. You deselect if you want. Yeah, you can. So that's going to limit the number of opt-outs. Okay. But then, of course, we're managing your unsubscribes, like in the case of email. So every time we send an email, you have the option to unsubscribe. So we manage the subscriptions on the back end of the tool. We'll talk a bit about that later. Okay. So we're getting all of this data from your sources, your transaction T-logs, your identified shoppers as they enroll. We're getting those opt-in information that they're indicating. And then we can also bring in third-party data. So this is health data. We license Syndigo data, for example, where we can bring in all the product attribution around Syndigo. But then we also work with companies like Sifter, which have kind of an elevated attribution model, in this case around health and lifestyles and allergens and concerns and different, a more advanced kind of level of health attribution that, depending on what's important to your business and where you're wanting to go, we can bring you these different additional attributes. And that's really the customer, customer data is the foundation, I was saying, but it's about activating the data for insights, for reporting and engagement, operationalizing the data so that we can engage your customers and answering those questions like, who are your better customers? Where are more of those customers like my best customers? What percentage of your customers' business are you actually capturing? What is each customer's relative opportunity to your business? How profitable are they to your business? So all of these kinds of questions we can start to answer once we have the data and it's accessible to you in a meaningful way. This is just an example of a segmentation scheme that we've done that kind of takes all these different data points like transactional data, third-party demographic data that looks at, what generation are you in? What's your income? Do you have presence of children? What's your household composition? It starts to put all that together, coupled with transactional data, coupled with how you shop the store, what's your breadth of shop? And it creates this kind of multi-dimensional segmentation scheme that you can really start to understand who your shoppers are and have context for how they interact with your brand. And then we can also provide reporting around how your shoppers are interacting with you over time. Are they declining? Are they stable? Are they growing? What does that look like? How you can quantify that opportunity with your, within your customer base. Look at it at a store level. Are they migrating from one store to another? Or at a store, or are they growing or declining? And that drives a lot of your strategies around how you approach those customers. So again, the data enables all of this, and the loyalty program is the means to collect the data and to ultimately to drive loyalty among your customers. Yeah, it is. So kind of back to Charlie's slide where we talked about self-service and managed services. So we have an analytics team. We can support your team and kind of augment what you can do internally. But the system is designed to be self-service. So I'm going to take you through some reports and just show you how the kind of data you can access and the kind of reports. And just real quickly, because I'll actually show you an example of this, is so you also have the ability to query the database and to help kind of understand your customers. So you can create multi-conditional queries. So in this case, we're looking at defining buyers who are shopping in July, and they were looking for specific Pepsi shoppers to qualify them for a sponsored promotion. So in this case, we're going in and we're identifying those who have a transaction during the month of July. So it's a transaction count greater than 1 during the month of July, starting on 7/1/23. We're going to look at those who transacted within a certain product category. So in this case, cola. And this is based on this client's product hierarchy. So your hierarchy may be different. So you would see it a little bit differently, possibly on your side. And then we want to identify these specific UPCs that shoppers were buying. So we uploaded a list of UPCs. You can see here under product code. And that identified those 27,726 customers who shopped during July, who bought a Pepsi product, who bought a specific Pepsi product that was part of this CPG sponsored promotion. And then we can export that list out if you then want to do something with that list, or it'll reside in our tool where you then could market to them. And one of our clients back in, I'm looking at customers. So these are all the customers that are part of their loyalty program. They have over 2 million customers on their program right now. So just to give you an example of what's available. So I go into a customer profile. So you would have access to this. So you may, have a customer that calls, or you're dealing with a customer. You can look up their profile. You can see that they have a verified email. They've opted in to receive email. You can see their address information. You can see what their birthday is, their card number, their other unique identifiers when they last logged in, when they were last modified. You can see the date of the record. And then you can look at more specific information around address, their password information, their credit card information, what devices do they have. So we know that she has an iOS app. So we have this device token, so we can identify her as a mobile app user. And these are just some of the different categories. Just for sake of time, I'm not going to go into these in detail, but just in terms of loyalty information, you can get a quick look at what she subscribes to. So she's part of the rewards program, and we also have a fuel points program. She's not opted into that, but she's on the rewards program. We can look at her points history. We can look at her coupon history. Does she have a householded account? So has she merged her account with, say, her husband's account so that they're earning as one household as opposed to two individuals? How many available offers has she taken advantage of? How many offers has she loaded to her loyalty account? And then we're tracking how many of those she has redeemed as well. But so it gives you a comprehensive view of the customer and profile of the customer, so that you can handle those service issues that might come up. Technically, you could have your store teams have access to where they're managing, these issues, service issues that come up, or it can be handled corporately. A little bit of both. Our clients, depending on how they want to handle that, but really it's to provide access to those records so they can handle those types of service questions, whether it's corporate or on the field. You can do search just to quickly find those. So if I search on my last name, there's 24 people that are named Crimmins too. Surprising. Well, a lot of them are me. But there are probably 20 or so that are. That's always kind of fascinating to me. Then I can look at my profile information. You can export this information out. So if I want a list of Crimmins to send them a certain targeted email, I could export this list out and look at that information. So these are all the different analytic reports that are available. So just real quick, we're tracking all their digital activities. So all their web and mobile activity. Here, they actually have a kiosk in store. We're tracking their activity on their kiosk, which is essentially a tablet. So what they have is they've got a Microsoft tablet, and we're pushing so our web and responsive web application is being pushed to their tablets, and it's designed for that form factor. It's actually a different design for their tablet form factor, so they can access everything on web, on the mobile app, and on tablet in the stores, because they have a lot of older customers. They want them to have access. They're not comfortable with an app. They can go in the store. It's that customer service. It's a touch screen, and they can kind of quickly show them, oh, you have these two offers available to you here. Let's load them to your account, and they can help them. It does. It works really well. They have a tablet in every single store, over 77 stores. And you can look at time periods. You can compare periods over time. How many website visits did we have during the 4th of July holiday this year versus last year? How has our traffic grown over time? All that trending information is available. So that's digital analytics around web and mobile visits and activity. Just real quick, this is just to give you an example of the tool and how you can use it to create your own analysis. So again, this is setting on top of all your data. In this case, we're looking at a promotion where they set up a test list and they set up a control list. So they're targeting the test list. The control list is not getting the promotion, and they want to see how the behavior is different pre and post promotion. So you can plug that information in, and then it's automatically going to populate the metrics around that particular promotion they're set. What were the sales, average sales per person targeted, average sales transacted, average basket versus the control group, so you can actually measure the incremental impact of that promotion. And that's what outputs at the bottom. So it shows you the pre-period metrics, the post-period metrics, and then what the true incremental impact of that promotion was on your business. And ultimately, that's what you really want to understand. It's not just that 1,000 people redeemed, but did it change their behavior from before the promotion to after the promotion? And then did it really drive incremental business? Then we also build out a number of reports and dashboard views that are continually getting updated. So if the ETL process is on a nightly basis, we're getting new T-log information, getting new customer information of shop. We're updating all these dashboard views on a nightly basis. So this is one that they use that just looks at.
I bet Donnie would like this.
It's an executive level view. So what is the loyalty activity? What is our digital activity? How many email promotions did we send out? How are our sales trending among identified shoppers? And so just kind of at a glance, you can get a trend of kind of what that looks like, how many have been active in whatever period you want to look at. So very, it's a high level view, more of an executive dashboard. You can look at that at an individual store level. You go down and say, okay, it looks like the Old Lime store, they're up 9% over last week. I know you have a lot of sales information as well. I mean, you guys are drowning in the reporting and metrics around sales. But in this case, we're tying that back to actual customers we can identify. So the customers that are looking at your primary customers or looking at your secondary segments or your tertiary customers, really what is their impact on the business? And then so you always kind of know what your percent of sales on and off the program are and what the average basket is, what their metrics are. So you kind of see the difference in the value of your identified shoppers. And then within your identified shoppers, that's when you apply the segments. So your primary shoppers that are driving your business. You may find you have 10% of your shoppers are driving 60% of your business. That's what you will find. And those shoppers you want to take care of, above all else, you got to retain those shoppers. So these reports give you insight into that so you can activate on it.
You said we y'all are tracking their T-log, so we know what their buying is always.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. And since we're also your web and mobile front end, we're tracking all your web activity at a user level. So are those same shoppers on your website or are they in your mobile app? What percent of shoppers are shopping on this device versus desktop? We found with the majority of on average with all of our clients, it's about 70% on the mobile device. And so that you guys probably are starting to see the same thing, but pre-pandemic, that was about 50-50, maybe even a little less on mobile device. Now it's all about mobile, and that's where the shoppers are going. So this reinforces that. You can see, how many identified web and app users, how many app users only, how many web users only, how many use web and app. So and this information is being continually updated. You kind of look at it over time, how that changes. We're tracking all your promotions. So every promotion that you run in the system, you target an offer to a shopper. This particular one, it's looking at your weekly ad campaign. So we're tracking your weekly ad performance, what items were doing the best, and you can go back and look at a weekly ad and see how many items were offered, how many were purchased, what the average basket was when they had that item in. So it really starts to give you some insight around those ad shoppers. So we built some models around that are product affinity models and what's the other items that are most likely to be in the basket. So then you can start to think about if you're pairing offers together, you always want to have cereal and milk is kind of an obvious one, but there may be one that's not so obvious that you want to pair with that offer. Or do you want to try to drive trial of an item that your shoppers may not be buying? So they may buy cereal, but they may not buy this other item that's in the aisle. And so they're a void for that. So you can identify those shoppers and target that particular item to them. So it gives you a lot of different, when you have the data, and so we have we'll get into some of the programs, but a number of templated programs around category voids, category affinities, trying to switch from national brands to private label on those higher margin items. So depending on what your strategy is, you can identify those shoppers and then you can, target an offer to them that's most relevant to them, or it's an opportunity that you're trying to drive them to. And then anytime you do any of those campaigns, we're tracking all of that activity. So you can see here, these are all the different campaigns that are being tracked on this dashboard. So right now I'm looking at our personalized deals program. So that's a monthly program that goes out. It has 6 personalized offers to every shopper based on their purchase history. So we're personalized. We have an offer bank of offers. So we're running those through our recommendation, our personalization algorithm. And we're selecting your 6 offers, your 6 offers, your 6 offers, and everybody gets those on a monthly basis or whatever cadence you want to send those out. And then when those offers are sent through the system, it's automatically tracking. We know how many have been sent, how many were opened, how many clicked on the offer, and then ultimately how many redeemed that offer and what the average basket was when they transacted. And then you can look at that over time. But there are probably 15 to 20 different recurring programs on this dashboard that you can look at. These are all e-com related programs. Then you get down here, they've got lapsed programs. Those are shoppers that have lapsed shopping. So we want to reactivate them. We have a churn model that it predicts who's likely to lapse. So before they lapse, we want to target them with an offer. And you can just click on that particular program and then you'll get the results from it. You can see how those results have been trending over time. So again, the dashboard's there, it's being refreshed. It's specifically for your targeted program. So if you're about to go into a meeting, you want to know how we've been doing on churn. You can just go in here to Workbench. You can go to click on churn and you'll get the data presented to you. And then you can export this if you want to or filter it different ways. Just quickly. So we talked about third-party data, showed you an example of the Sifter health data. We also, for a lot of our clients, append demographic information. I showed you in that segmentation chart, we had generations on there. We can append demographic information at the household level. So we know, again, household composition, income, age, presence of children, those kinds of things about your customers. And then we can cross it with the other data. So we know that in this case, they have 131,000 primary shoppers. They've got 845,000 tertiary shoppers. So these are your very best shoppers. These are more of your cherry pickers and your occasional shoppers. So we can start to understand based on transactional data who your customers are. And then we can cross that with demographic data. So we know that if we're looking not at 1.2 million cardholders, but we're going to look just at primary customers, we can look at what their demographic information is and how they're different from all your shoppers.
That's with that integration.
If we append the demographic information to, so once you have customer data, then we send that out to a third party. We append the demographic information at the household level, then we bring that back into your customer data platform, and then it resides so that you can have reporting on it. You can use it for targeting. Let's say you want to send an offer to young family households that have not shopped with you in the last 60 days at these 2 stores. You can target within the system, create that list and associate it to an email and send an offer to them or some other channel. So again, just an example of all the different information. Now you can kind of cross it, to get a different view of it. And there's a way you can then filter and you can kind of start to dig in and analyze the data differently. So it's not just static dashboards or interactive dashboards, but then there's also tools to allow your team to go in and say, I want to look at primary shoppers. I want to see, are they an e-commerce shopper true? I want to see if are they a digitally engaged shopper, meaning they have a digital account, they've been on the website or the app in, say, the last 30 days. So you can make those kinds of selections and you're getting a different count adjusted up here. And then we can also, we look at, a dashboard for e-commerce. So in this case, we're just tracking e-commerce activity only and looking at those shoppers. And then we're looking at their demographic information. How many have transacted in the last 28 days? How many have lapsed? They transacted before, but haven't transacted in 28 days. So those KPIs that are important to your e-commerce business, you can have a dashboard for that. Again, this is updating every night when we get the data coming in so that you have a fresh view of it in the morning. So yeah, so we'll show you some of this in just a minute when we look at the front end in terms of how you can monetize your website and your app and your e-marketing. The possibilities are limitless, but we've tried to give you a lot of tools that allow you to control how you want to monetize your site.
Okay.
So we do integrate with media services networks like Citrus Ads so that you could take advantage of any national CPG dollars are available. So if you wanted to, we could bring Citrus in and integrate into the platform. They're going to push those CPG products. It's really on their terms because it's kind of an auction site where essentially they're bidding to have their item placed on your website in a premium position. But what we've tried to do is, and this is what Kelsey's really going to show you, is the ability to manage the front end experience and monetize the front end experience using our CMS and our widget tools. And so we'll show you some examples of that. I think that'll stimulate some conversation too. So I'm now building my query and I've already built it out. So I'm just going to walk you through it. But in this case, I'm looking for transactions that happened in the past week. So I've set it to equal past week of 1. I want those transactions, those customers that spent over $150 in overall sales during that period and had at least 2 transactions. and I want them from this particular store. So I selected the Northampton store. Let's take it off. Selected the Northampton store. I can change this transaction count. Maybe I want 3 transactions or just limited to 1 transaction. This is just a random selection for purposes of. So I'm going to refresh that real quick because I did make that change. It just updated based on that refresh. I made the qualifier 1 transaction instead of 2 transactions. So it pulled in more customers. Now I now have 2019 customers, and you can see it updated it. It's live happening right now against the database. Also want to add another condition to it. So I've got those 2,000 customers that transacted at that store in the last week, but I'm looking for whatever reason, affluent shoppers. So the demographic information that's dependent on the database, I can go in here and there's a variety. I could select customers on children present. I selected estimated income in this case, and I've selected these particular income ranges. I could take that income range off, make it a little bit more restrictive, and I'm gonna run that query, and it came back with 216 customers. So that's all. I could continue to add additional conditions as long as you want to refine your selection to get to the audience that you want. Just for sake of time, I'm going to finalize that query. It's going to give me a sample of the actual customer. So I'm getting 10 records I can take a look at, just a sanity check. So yeah, that looks good. And now I can finalize that. And that list is now stored in the system, so you can use it for marketing purposes. Like you could associate it to a targeted program. You could associate it to an email targeted program. You could associate it to a push notification if they have push enabled. So just to show you an example of how, or if you just want to know how many shoppers do we have that had this kind of behavior for a project that you're running or some reporting that you need. So it gives you that ability to quickly create a query and then to do something with that query by activating it via email or some other one of our other channels. So you can see in this case, they build a lot of lists. They have over 1,000 lists, target lists they've created. And just in the last, if I go to the first of this, they're creating lists every single day. You know, they're in here. And some of these are static lists, some are dynamic lists. This is a Boar's Head promotion here, targeting Boar's Head shoppers. I don't know what Sarah Char's is, but that's another product. There's a sushi offer. So these are all targeted offers to specific subsets of shoppers. You can see the quantities here. Some are large, some are very specific. You have 20 here, you've got 76,000 here. So that's that ability to leverage your data, target specific shoppers associated to an offer that's relevant, and send it out through one of our delivery channels, and even just push it to web and mobile, into message inbox, into web and mobile. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.